Sad news this noon from the entertainment world. Country music legend Loretta Lynn.
Loretta Lynn was the brave voice behind a lot of truth-telling songs. Told one story for years that was quiet, personal, and completely out of the blue. And it took place in a room made for music, a place full of memories. Whenever it took even the most stable people a moment to process what she finally told them. Was it? Looking back? No imagination? Or something that the mic couldn't pick up? It left her, no matter what it was. Shook. What did really happen in that room, and why did Loretta bring it up at that time? Roots in Butcher Hollow. Butcher Hollow is where Loretta Lynn's story starts. A remote part of Van Lear, Kentucky. Where being poor wasn't just a trend, it was the norm. She was the second of 8 kids living in a dirty, small shack with only one room. The town was owned by a coal company that pretty much ran everything, and business life ran everything. Families liked having power over the homes, the general store, and even the money they used, scrip. The Webbs were poor and dependent. Loretta knew what it was like to be hungry from a very young age. She slept on the floor with her brothers, wrapped in blankets, when she was very young. During the cold winters in the Appalachians. Not only did these events make her tough, but also gave her the determination she would use for the rest of her life. Her childhood also had major health problems that showed how hard life is in the country. As a child, she had a dangerous ear infection, and doctors had to drill her. She had to have painful, old-fashioned holes made in her head to protect her hearing. How bad her state was. Because she couldn't pay to stay at the hospital, her mother walked 10 miles every day to be with her daughter. Later, Loretta came back because of a leg injury to the hospital, showing once more how little time there was between life and death. It was times like those, not just physical tests, that made Loretta's emotions change. Before she even put foot on the ground, there was a silence of deep strength and learning how to fight. Anywhere on stage. These were rough places where Loretta learned to find music as a child. As a place to stay and as a calling. Having grown up with Nashville wasn't a dream for her. Fame, his first stage acts were lullabies he sang to his younger siblings on the shaky piano. A wooden porch in the middle of the woods. Since she didn't have any official training or instruments, her voice became her only tool, propelling her through the hills with such force that neighbors working in people in fields nearby would stop and listen to that sound. That little bit of support from the bottom up that really helped her feel better about herself. There were some small, daily events that the people thought her voice was a way to comfort them, but she thought it was a way to change her life. Loretta always stayed true to her roots. She was proud of how poor she came from. And never forgot that. Getting ahead should free her from her ties to Butcher Hollow. In talks, he always went back to his roots. And through the music he created, chiefly in Coal Miner's Daughter, which became a big hit, played a part in shaping his image and reputation. Even when she was getting lots of praise and perks, she never spent her. She saved it to remember herself of where she came from and how far she had come. But just as her voice was getting louder, life threw her a part she didn't want. Girl should look so young. A teenage bride, Loretta Lynn became an adult quickly and in a lot of different ways after she married Oliver Doolittle Lynn when most girls were still going through the teen years. Even though Loretta often she said she got married when she was 13, but later papers showed she was actually 15. This is still very young. And terribly unprepared for what married life is really like. In rural Kentucky in the middle of the 20th century, getting married so young wasn't unusual, especially when parents agreed, but that didn't mean they were perfect. Her folks were very against the match. Her mother didn't want to go to the wedding or sign any legal papers, and her father didn't get close to Doolittle personally. These early signs of stress showed what problems Loretta would soon have to deal with in what was not at all like the beginning of a story. From the start, the relationship was full of ups and downs. On the night of their wedding, Doolittle hit Loretta because of a harmless mistake. That was the first case of domestic abuse in a long line of them. The wedding was marked by Doolittle was unstable, he often drank a lot, withdrew for long periods of time, and was of cheating on their partner. But in the middle of all this chaos, Loretta found a strength that would help her shape how people see her in the years to come. She didn't stay quiet. She fought back. If he hits me, I'll hit him back, she made it clear in interviews, unwilling to be a victim. Anybody. This became a theme in her songs, and it helped people connect with her. To a huge number of women who are having similar problems at home. It's funny that the same man who brought she turned to singing when she was going through a lot of personal trouble. Doolittle saw how talented Loretta was, his desire to beat the women on the show was so strong that he got her a $17 guitar. And told her she should try singing for a living. Loretta was just a busy young woman, after all. A mother who has no desire to be famous and doesn't trust her words. Doolittle also was in charge of lead by taking care of her early appointments and driving her from one radio station to the next station. What began as his project turned into a job for Loretta. Loretta started to take care of her life and work overtime. While her coming out within, she would always give credit where credit is due because the country music business was also a way for her to gain independence. In Doolittle's early life that affected her path. The problems in their relationship came out in public. In a truly honest way into Loretta's songwriting. Songs like Fist City and Don't These Songs, like Come Home A Drinkin', were not just general character studies, they were detailed plans for her life. With Don Doolittle, she turned those painful memories into loud and clear songs of protest. Talking to women everywhere. Loretta tried to live by the rules of her marriage for many years. Sense of dedication, not wanting to break her kids' hearts, and staying true to her. She thought Doolittle had the right to her love. Being a mother in hard times, Loretta Lynn became a mother very quickly and early in life, and it shaped a lot of her young adult years. By the time she was 22, she had already had 4 children and was very responsible for them. Taking care of a family while having an unstable marriage to Doolittle Lynn. With her husband often not there because they are working or going on long drinking binges, the responsibility of caring for children and almost all of the housework fell on Loretta. She washed diapers by hand, dragged buckets of water to cook and clean, and ran a home while being almost completely alone. The family didn't have a lot of money or other means, and during one especially tough time, for almost 2 weeks, Loretta and her kids lived off of dandelions. These terrible problems, which she dealt with in silence and with determination, made her who she was. Writing songs. Her health also suffered because she was pregnant all the time and didn't get much medical care. After giving birth to her second child, Loretta had 2 miscarriages and then a blood disease that could kill them. Not having enough money to pay for hospitalization, she had to get better at home, away from medical workers. After that, during the birth she had to have an emergency C-section with her 3rd child. But since Doolittle couldn't be reached, while he was out cutting in the woods, Loretta was in the hospital by herself, sedated and in pain. And without her husband's help. Her deep understanding and wider range of experiences gave her a wide range of emotions that she used to write powerful songs. It's both mentally and physically tiring. Fame was sometimes a support system, and other times it was the being a mother is a terrible source of pain. When Loretta started to notice her twins were born. Job in music. At first, they were full of dread at the thought of touring with 6 kids, she had to be glad they were there. Being emotionally apart from him hurt her a lot from the start. Her daughter Betty Sue would tell stories about how her mother's trips would cause her a lot of pain, which Loretta would remember for the rest of her life. She said more than once that the worst thing about being popular was missing her kids. This tension, which was bothering her, came out in her haunting voice and song lyrics. songs that were full of desire, weariness, and fierce motherly love. The huge amount of feeling. A lot of Loretta's most famous and controversial songs came from the weight of being a mother. The song, "The Pill," which made it clear that women should be in charge of reproduction. She told the truth about her life, which included having endless babies and the need to get back in charge. Over 60 radio stations didn't play the song, but it spoke to women all over the world about how they felt. Lynn's words helped them understand their situation. Making music out of pain. The artistry of Loretta Lynn didn't come from schooling or business polish, but from a life full of raw, often painful events. In contrast to many songwriters who wrote fictional instead of telling stories or using tried-and-true business formulas, Loretta used her own problems as inspiration, using hardship to make highly personal music that people can relate to. Her big break in 1967. It was real when the hit song, "Don't Come Home A Drinkin', with Lovin' on Your Mind," was written. Was a sharp look at her relationship with Doolittle Lynn. The song showed how upset she was with a husband who would come home drunk and demanding, a truth that many people could relate to. Women all over the United States. It was the first solo country song to get to #1 and was a big hit. Female artist, caused a cultural change and showed that many people liked songs that told stories. The honest truth from a woman's point of view. Her bravery in talking about these things kept going. With "Fist City," an angry verse aimed at a real woman who had been looking at her husband when they perform. Loretta wasn't the quiet, patient wife that most people think she is. Used the song to send a very public message: if you cross the line, there will be consequences. In the old days, women in country music were supposed to be shy or sweetly sad. Loretta's decision not to give up was very brave. When some radio stations didn't want to play the song, people liked it even though they were afraid of how strong it was. Many women felt quiet anger in her words. Heard on the radio that they had felt but never heard. "Fist City" went straight to #1, making Loretta's a reputation as an artist who didn't mind singing things that other artists were too shy to say. Besides her first few hits, Loretta's discography became a kind of social record of a woman's life. American life in the middle of the 20th century. "The Pill" and "Rated X" were hot songs. People who use guns to talk about taboo topics like birth control and divorce. Even though these songs were illegal and caused a lot of trouble, they were still very famous. Loretta's brave honesty struck a deep chord with me. She did more than just entertain, she also making sure. She gave women a way to be angry, confident, tired, and proud through song. The words to her songs saved lives. They gave people a voice that knew not only their happiness, but the pain and anger they feel every day. She didn't make pain look cool, she showed it. And made sure it was heard. The Grand Ole Opry is not on fire, water flows through it. It will be 100 years old in 2025. Loretta's fame as a truth singer in the show The World was already very mythical at that point. "Don't Come" was honored with tribute concerts at The Pill and "Home A Drinkin'" for both their catchy songs and huge effects on culture. She was seen by young artists as the one who made it safe for them to tell their own stories. She left a legacy of authenticity in country music, not just being at the top of the charts. So, with Loretta Lynn helped change what a country song could be by turning private pain into public art. She did all of this while leaving behind work that was as strong as the woman who made it. Sad death of Jack Benny Lynn. In 1984, Loretta Lynn went through the loss of a child is the worst thing that can happen to a parent. The boy she had died, Jack Benny Lynn. At the young age of 34 in a terrible accident on his family's ranch in Hurricane Mills, Tennessee. Jack had been riding his horse and tried to cross the Duck River, which is a known dangerous spot. He was thought to have been thrown off his horse and hit his head on a rock, which caused him to die. The horse was found waiting patiently by the river, but Jack's body wasn't found until later. Soon Loretta was in the hospital in Illinois at the time of the accident because she was so tired. It was up to Loretta Lynn to tell everyone the terrible news. Loretta fell down from she was in a lot of pain and had to go back to the hospital, which shows how shocked she was emotionally and physically. People often said that Jack was Loretta's favorite child, but not because she loved him more, but because of the unique bond they had with each other. He had the wild side of his father and that he liked to party, but in the months before he died, Jack had started to settle down, committing himself to his wife and kids. Loretta was happy with how things had changed, and full of hope for the future. His death was sad and came too soon, cutting short a good time, what she thought would be the start of a better time for him. Later, Loretta said she felt uneasy about what was going on and sometimes saying they thought something about she didn't believe the official story about the crash, but nothing was ever proven beyond that. Even though Loretta was in a lot of pain, she didn't hide under the covers. Instead, she threw herself into her work and used the music room as a place to get rid of stress. She was not able to let go. One song that was directly about him, but all of her later work had that sound to it. There is a quieter, more reflective tone and a heavier amount of sadness in the air. Interviews in the years that followed always came back to Jack, as Loretta would talk about how the loss of she keeps seeing this one man. She talked about the terrible throb that wouldn't go away, about how guilty they feel for not being with him when he died and how quiet it is now, on that land where he used to walk. To her friends and peers, her strength in the face of personal loss giving her a frame that was taller than all of them. When the Grand Ole Opry turned 100 years old, in 2025, references to Jack were quietly but powerfully all over the place. Got paid to Loretta. Her death had become part of her public story as a mother who was suffering. Knots of brave songs and flashy jobs. The accident gave Loretta a human side that no award could, or a great song ever would. For the country music fans who came to the Opry to honor her, it's not just about how good she is at music. No one knows how to fully commit to a single interest while going through such unbearable pain. No amount of strength can keep you singing. This is what Loretta is being praised for. One of the most important parts of her continuing her impact is that she was able to deal with loss and still give herself through her art. Things seemed to be getting back to normal when something strange walked into the studio and stopped her in her tracks. Loretta Lynn's last meeting with Johnny Cash. Loretta Lynn was used to strange things happening, but one scary event near the end of her work stood out from the rest. In 2016, Johnny Cash's cabin studio in Hendersonville is where she recorded her Grammy-nominated album Full Circle. Tennessee, she went through something that really shook her. As she sang one of Johnny's songs, she stopped in the middle of the session and looked shocked. Afterward, she told those there that she had seen a man in a gray suit walk through the door. She was sure it was the same guy, such as Johnny Cash. Some people may have been doubtful because the room wasn't well lit. Loretta, on the other hand, responded right away and honestly. She didn't say she imagined it or romanticized it. She saw it as a metaphor, but she thought it was real. This moment became even more important because of how important the place is to them emotionally and historically. The office, built by Johnny himself in 1978, had become a place where both new and known artists could work freely, as well as new views. Loretta had a strong bond with the Cash family. She had long admired them. Their son, John Carter Cash, created, along with Johnny and June Carter Cash, her later records. The fact that the sighting happened while a song was being recorded tied to Johnny, it made things even stranger. The meeting didn't scare Loretta as much as it felt like it was like a visit from a fellow hero, whose presence had never quite left the room. Loretta had a lot of experience with ghosts and other strange things before this moment. Her people said that her ghost visited their home in Hurricane Mills, Tennessee. Her stories were full of ghosts, from Civil War soldiers to shadowy figures that showed up on rooftops. And they were all the same. She even wrote songs about what she went through. Like This Haunted House, she incorporated the supernatural into her stories and narratives instead of it was a strange event. There was nothing dramatic about what Loretta said, she just said that the events were part of life. Them. Not caring what other people thought didn't bother her, she was sure of what over the years, she had seen, felt, and heard a lot. This willingness to face the unknown started to shape another. She was an interesting mix of a real countrywoman and a magical storyteller. There was again the sound of ghosts in the studio with Loretta during the 2025 Grand Ole Opry Centennial, and people who had worked with her and knew her well remember her with fondness. Spirit. This wasn't meant to scare people, instead, it showed how closely country music is linked. That go beyond space, time, and maybe even death. When Loretta and Johnny are honored together, the Opry recognize the real musical accomplishments that made their performances unforgettable but short-lived. Being there on holy ground. For Loretta, who went with her gut and told the truth, no, that day in the studio wasn't a ghost story. It was a goodbye from an old friend. Collaborations and changes in Loretta Lynn's music during her career showed that age and tradition could not stop people from starting over. One of the most clear examples in 2004 when she worked with Jack White, lead singer of the rock band The White Stripes. Record Van Leer Rose, which was a big deal. At a time when a lot of her friends had quit, after being out of the press for a while, Loretta shocked the music business by putting out an honest, powerful album that she wrote everything herself. White helped her find her voice by not being a master but a guide to a younger, rock-oriented crowd without changing who she is. The end result was a group of songs that had a lot to do with country custom but also had a sense of urgency today. This project won 2 Grammys and made people remember Loretta's voice. It was still very important, both literally and artistically. This was all about respect. Working together. Jack White didn't try to make Loretta more modern or polished. Instead, he took the raw feeling of her stories and put them together in a way that sounded like blues, garage rock, and people from Appalachia. Portland, Oregon was a hot duet that was the show's crown prize. Just showed that sincerity works across genres when it's respected. It was praised by critics for its brave sincerity and brought Loretta to the attention of new people who would not have known her as I used to read Coal Miner's Daughter, but now I see her as an artist who refuses to fade into memories. In her 70s, Loretta's desire to work with others only grew stronger. After Still Woman Enough.